This video is brought to you by NordPass. Today we're looking at the first 15 things that you should do if you've just got your brand new iPhone 14, 14 Pro, or any iPhone that runs the latest version of iOS 16. These tips and tricks will help you get the most out of your iPhone's features, battery life, as well as performance. But first, I am doing a giveaway on this brand new iPhone 14. And if you want a chance to win, be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment with your Instagram username. And then follow me on Instagram at Dion Schuddeboom, where I will announce the winner on the 16th of July. Okay, so to start, let's take a look at customizing the lock screen. Now, iOS 16 brought some really great new features for customizing the lock screen. So to do this, what we're going to do is actually press and hold on the lock screen. And as you can see, this will sort of zoom out and give us this slide menu where we can very quickly and easily switch between the looks. This is not dissimilar to how you change a watch face on, for example, your Apple Watch. But to create a new home screen, we're going to go ahead and press the little plus sign here on the bottom of the display. And from here, we have a range of options to choose from for our wallpaper. So we have some featured options. We even have some photos. We can even have like weather specific ones. I like the photos in particular because as you can see in some of them, if you look at these selfies here, it's actually going to crop me out of the photo and sort of place the time behind it, which I think looks nice. But let's go and scroll through here. This one here I think looks particularly great. So let's choose that as our example. So simply tap it here. And as you can see, we've now selected the wallpaper for the lock screen. And from here, we're able to customize this further. So starting off with the clock, we can go ahead and tap on that. And here we can actually change the font of the clock. And I really like this sort of bold italic one here. I think it's got kind of a classic look. And then on the bottom here, we're actually also able to change the color. So let's do something that kind of complements the colors in the photo. Let's say this nice warm yellow gives me this holiday vibes. So we'll go and tap out of that. And as you can see, we've just completely changed the look and feel of the lock screen. Now we can take this even further by above it here. We can choose to show, for example, the day, the weather conditions. I like to have the day of the week and the date. And then beneath that, most interestingly, we now have widgets. Now, widgets are really interesting because as you can see, you can add things like your temperature, your alarms, even your calendar. You can have stock tickers, a lot of information right on the home screen that will always be refreshed every time you look at your phone. So let's go in and remove these two here. Personally, I like to have the weather, especially when you live in London. This is very essential to know whether you need an umbrella before leaving home. And I also like to have activity to see how much of my workouts I've done for the day. So as you can see, I only select two. You can have up to four, but my suggestion or my advice with widgets is less is more. While widgets are a fantastic way to get information at a glance, they do constantly run, and this does mean they will take battery. Now we're going to have a lot of battery tips throughout this video. One of them is when it comes to widgets, use them because they are useful, but less is more. So I suggest two, maybe one, depending on your use case. And then once you're happy with the look of your wallpaper, we can go ahead and press add on the top right corner here. And from here, we have the option to assign it to both our lock screen or also our home screen. And in this case, we're going to select it to both here. So we'll go ahead and set it. And as you can see, we tap into it. We've just completely changed the look and the feel of our phone. And I think this particular combination looks quite fresh. Great, so now that we've customized the lock screen, let's get down to business with some serious battery saving tips when it comes to both your background app refresh as well as your notifications. So let's start off with background app refresh. For this, you're going to want to go into your settings and then type on general. And then we're going to go down to where we find background app refresh. Now, chances are most, if not all of your apps are going to want to run in the background, but in reality, most don't need to. For example, shopping apps, games, and social media. And I really suggest you turn these off. Now, at the top here, you do have the option to turn off all background app refresh, but this is something I don't suggest as there are still some apps which you would want to have running in the background. For example, maps applications, messaging apps, music, or streaming apps that you want to always be refreshed and up to date. So my advice is go through this list and turn off the apps that don't need to be running in the background. This is going to save you lots of battery over time and make sure that only the apps that need to will have permission to run in the background. Again, I think over 50% or so really don't need to. And the same thing can be said for notifications. So if we go back here to the main page of the settings screen, we're going to tap on notifications. Now, this is again where I suggest you go through this list and turn off all applications that don't need to be sending you notifications. Not only is this going to be really good for battery, as this is going to activate your phone's speaker, haptic motor, and display less, it's also going to bother you less throughout the day. So it's also good for your mental health as well as saving battery. So as you can see, I've got a lot turned off here, especially things like appliance applications, shopping apps, but I keep my important social media, my finance apps, or sort of messaging apps, of course, on as well. I think this is really useful. Again, it saves your battery, and plus this way you know when your phone goes off, it is something important. Not say Facebook reminding you it is your friend's sister's dog's birthday. And let's now go from battery saving to best ways to charge. And there's one setting that I highly recommend everyone make sure is on, and that is your optimized battery charging. So if you're in the main page here of your settings screen, we're going to scroll down to where we find battery. And here, when you click on battery health and charging, we have the option to turn on optimized battery charging. And I really suggest you turn this on. Now, what this is basically going to do is your iPhone is going to learn your charging schedule. Say, for example, overnight, it's going to first charge to the first 80% battery and then wait for the remaining 20% closer to when you wake up. This means it will minimize the impact on your battery health and still make sure your phone is fully charged when you need it when you wake up in the morning. And now briefly, I also want to touch on chargers, as I've got a lot of questions from you guys in the past about what chargers are best. And I've actually done a whole separate video on this subject, which I will leave linked in the description. But to sort of summarize or to recap for you today, lower watt chargers, for example, 5-watt chargers, are slower, but will be better for your battery health in the long term as they produce less heat, meaning that a slower charger is ideal to use overnight. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have higher watt chargers, for example, a 20-watt charger, which, yes, will charge faster, but will also degrade the battery health of your iPhone more quickly thanks to producing more heat. So my advice is only use a faster charger when needing a quick top up throughout the day, and then use that slower 5-watt charger overnight. Now I want to go over a couple of useful features in some of Apple's best apps. And the first here is in iMessage, as you now have the option to edit and unsend a recent iMessage. So let's say I've got a message here, go ahead and send that. And let's say there's a spelling mistake or something I want to correct. Now to edit that message, I can go ahead and press and hold, and we get this secondary menu. And from here, we can tap edit. And then we can actually modify a part of the message here. So let's say instead of 5 minutes, we're going to go 10 minutes. This video might take a little while. And then we'll press the tick mark here on the right to then update and amend that message. Now, two things are important to note. First, the recipient, the person you're sending to, will be able to see the edit history. So she or he will be able to tap the edit button here. And you can see that that correction has been made. So yes, I will be late, and that does show. And then secondly, this works for up to 15 minutes after sending your message. So if you do want to make an amendment, just keep that in mind. Now, you also have the option to unsend entirely. So to do this, we'll tap and hold on that same message, and as you can see, we have the option to undo send, and this will then make the message sort of disappear off screen, including of course the previous edit. And this is great, of course, if you want to just undo a message entirely, but do bear in mind this only works for up to 2 minutes after sending, so you do want to make sure that you act fast. And this brings us to Siri. Now, Siri can be really useful even for just simple things like setting timers, reminders, asking definitions, things like that. But how you use Siri does matter. So in the settings app, we're going to scroll down to where we find Siri and search. Now, chances are you're going to have the listen for Hi Siri. Now, I'm not going to say what it says here to not trigger your Siris. So this first option, turning that on, Hi Siri, is useful in a way that it is a hands-free way to access Siri, right? All you have to say that activation phrase and your phone will pick it up. However, the downside is that this will take up significant battery, as this means your phone will constantly be listening, even when the display is off, for that activation phrase. And this really adds up over the day. I found this to be around 10 to 15% battery life. So this is a huge, huge impact. So instead, I suggest turning this off and instead using the press the side button to activate Siri. So how you do this is press the side button. Is it going to rain today? Thankfully, 0 chance of rain. That's a rare thing in London. Great. And as you can see, this is still equally, I think, easy or almost just as convenient of a way to access Siri. And again, it will be much more efficient for your battery life. Now, I suggest changing this setting not just on your iPhone, but also your Apple Watch and your iPad if you have it. So we've looked at some battery saving and charging tips and a few app tips so far, but now I want to talk about security, as this is of course really important, and I'm going to show you 3 steps to improve your iPhone security. Now there's a few really essential settings here. So when we go back into the settings app, we're going to scroll down to where we find Face ID and passcode. I'm going to have to type in my password here, passcode, and the first is to disallow access when locked. So when you scroll down in this page here, we have this section here, allow access when locked. Now this means that depending on what you have on here, where a person may be able to access your today view, see your notifications, or even return a call or connect accessories even if your phone is locked. So imagine if, say, your phone is lost or stolen, you wouldn't want anyone to have access to these things, anyone that doesn't already have access to say, your iPhone's passcode. So my suggestion is to turn most of these off. Now, there's a few exceptions here. Again, we have the lock screen widgets. That's what we looked at earlier. You want those to be up to date and refreshed, and typically don't show too private information, so you can keep those on. The same thing goes for live activities, but my suggestion is to turn all of these others off, as this means that if your phone is ever lost or stolen, someone finds it, they really can't do much without your password. And the second tip sits just beneath that, and that is erase data. Now, what this means is that after 10 failed password attempts, your phone is going to automatically erase the data. And what this means is that if ever your phone is lost and stolen, at least your data will be safe, as chances are the person's going to try and brute force their way into your phone, but with this feature, they will not be able to, and your data will just eventually be gone. And finally, we're going to go to a display setting. Now, we'll talk more about the optimizing the display in a sec, but this particular one falls more under security. So back in the main page of the settings screen, we're going to tap on display and brightness, and then scroll down to where we find auto lock. And we're going to set this to as short of a time as possible. I recommend 30 seconds. It's maybe a little quick for some, as long as you don't have it on never. And what this means is if, say, you have your phone left on a table unattended, your screen will lock very quickly, or even if you put your phone away and you accidentally forget to lock it, you can rest assured knowing it will lock fast. So again, if your phone is ever lost or stolen for security reasons, it will lock itself quickly and of course keep anyone from accessing your data. Not to mention, this is of course really good for your battery as well, and also the general life of your display. While we're on the subject of security, these days, more than ever, it is essential to protect your online accounts with a strong and unique password, especially if you run a business. It is not safe to reuse the same password across different accounts, but at the same time, it's impossible to remember dozens of unique passwords. So what's the solution? Well, this is where NordPass Business comes in, a password manager that works across desktop and mobile platforms to keep your online accounts secure. NordPass lets you store usernames, passwords, and even secure notes and credit card details, all protected by one master password or with biometric authentication using the latest encryption standard. And then if you work in a team, NordPass lets you share sensitive account details or information directly with other team members and do so in a safe way, as opposed to sharing a password in a messaging app. Please don't do this, by the way. You can then share all or very specific company logins per individual team member, and access to NordPass can be instantly granted or removed. But my favorite feature of NordPass is it will automatically scan for data breaches and then notify you if any of your information got leaked, just for that extra peace of mind. And then on top of that, NordPass also offers useful tools such as a custom password generator and password health checker to make sure your company's confidential information is kept safe. If you're interested in trying NordPass for your business, be sure to click my link in the description and use code DionBusiness to see NordPass in action with a 3-month free trial. Now I want to go through a few more essential rapid-fire quick tips and tricks for some of Apple's best apps here and generally using your iPhone. And the first here has to do with Notes. Now, Notes is a really great way, I think a very powerful tool to keep track of your notes. And what I like most about this app is that it automatically syncs across your other devices, whether it be your Mac, your iPad, and also updates sort of live. So if you type on one, it will show on the other. However, Notes is a great way to store information, but it's tricky when you want to store, say, something sensitive, whether that be personal information, address details, phone numbers, etc. Now, you can actually protect a note with a password. So essentially lock a note behind an additional layer of security. So let's say I have this very private note here, video ideas, don't want anyone to see this. Let's say I want to lock this note. What I can do is press and hold on that note. And then we have the option to lock the note. Now we have two options of protecting this note. We can use either the passcode that you already have set on your phone. This would be the one that you use when you unlock your phone. We can even create an entirely separate password for this. Now, still, I wouldn't suggest storing things like bank information or really private information in Notes, as it's just not the most secure way to do it. But this is still an additional layer of protection to keep anyone you don't want from accessing this information. So really useful, and you can do this for as many or as little notes as you want, and you can have even separate passwords for different notes if you want to take it that far as well. And then sort of on the subject of notes / keyboard, let's talk about the one-handed keyboard. Now, in this case, I'm doing this video here for my iPhone 14 Pro, but if you're on the 14 Plus or even the 14 Pro Max, a one-handed keyboard can be really useful. In fact, even actually on the regular size 14 Pro, sometimes it can just be a little bit hard in one hand to reach the other end of the display. Say you're walking down a busy road, you're responding to a message. It can be a little bit tricky without having to use both hands, but then you've got your coffee in another hand. Anyway, the one-handed keyboard here can be really useful. Now, to access this, you're going to want to press and hold on this little globe icon that you have in the bottom right corner. And then we have the option for this one-handed keyboard. So as you can see, we can have it either on the left or on the right side. I'm left-handed, so I choose to move it to the right, to the left, I mean. And as you can see, around, 20% or so of the keyboard gets shifted over to the left, and we have a more narrow field. And this means it's easier for your thumb to reach to the other end of the keyboard. And this makes a really big difference and essentially makes this fully usable in one-handed mode. Again, especially if you have one of the larger models. And you can, of course, press the arrow to quickly get out of that. And again, as mentioned, you can move this to either the right or the left side, depending on which hand you use. One more neat feature about the keyboard specifically is you can actually activate keyboard haptics as you type. Now, I know this is something that many people really swear by and really like, so I'm going to show you how to activate this. So to do this, we're going to go into the settings menu here, and then we're going to scroll to where we find sound and haptics, and then under keyboard, where is it? There it is, keyboard feedback. We have the option to turn on not just the keyboard sound, which is that clicking, but also the haptic. And when I have this turned on, every key that I press, the phone will slightly vibrate. It's a very subtle little click, but the haptic engine in the iPhone is really good, so it's a very convincing click. It almost adds a tactile feel to your keyboard, reminiscent to the good old BlackBerry days. I don't say good old, I wouldn't want to go back, but you have fond memories from that time. Anyway, the point is, this is a way to add some feedback to your keyboard. Now I want to show you a really cool feature in Photos. You can actually now copy text right from Photos. So let's say you take a picture of a product. So here I've got one of my favorite coffees from Starbucks, the Verona, by the way. I highly recommend it if you get a chance to try it. But if say you take a picture of a slideshow at a university lecture or a meeting room or a boardroom, in a meeting, you can take a picture of those notes and then actually copy text right from the photo without having to manually type it over. This really saves a lot of time. It can be really useful, or even for street names, etc. So how to do this? Well, let's tap on the photo here, and what you're going to want to look for is this little icon that you see in the bottom right. Now, when you see this icon, this means there is text to copy. So let's say I want to look up this name. All I have to do is press and hold on the text, and as you can see, just like in a message, it's going to highlight that text, and I can then select as much or as little of the text I want. So as you can see, I've got the Cafe Verona copied here, and then we can go ahead and press copy, and let's open up a new note, and we'll go ahead and paste that in. And voila, there we go. So we now have Cafe Verona. We have that copied. And as you can see, we can now go ahead and quickly look up that name, research a product, street name, again, whatever it is. It's a really handy way to take notes, or really to copy text from images. And this also works with handwriting. So if, say, you have a whiteboard and it's written down, as long as it's reasonably neat, neater than my handwriting, it should work just fine. Though I've actually found it to work even with mine. Let's go from Photos over to Safari. Now, I think Safari is by far the best web browser, especially for your iPhone, just because of how well it syncs across with all of your other devices in terms of your recent open tabs. You can shift a tab right from your iPad and then continue browsing on your iPhone or Mac. Same thing with bookmarks, history, etc. But there's actually a few really useful tips and tricks when it comes to using Safari that I want to share you as well. Now, the first thing here, let's go ahead and open up one of our recent tabs. We've got the 14 Pro tab here. What you can do is open and close. So you press this little icon here on the bottom right, and this is going to show you all of your open tabs. And to quickly close a tab, all you have to do is simply swipe to the left. And as you can see, that's then going to close that right on the Safari page. Now, we can also search on a page. So say you're looking for a specific keyword. We tap this little share icon that you see in the middle here. And then we're going to scroll down to where we find on page. And then we can go ahead and type in, let's say, camera. And as you can see, it's going to give us all of the results. And then we can use this little arrow to go through them one by one. This is great if you're looking for reading an article and you're looking for a specific keyword. Now, the last tip in Safari that I want to show you that I think is particularly useful, let's go ahead and get out of this menu here, is let's say there's a website that you access often. So for example, here I've got Google Flights often open here, and I want to add this to the home screen. Well, you can actually add a website right as an icon on your home screen, making it very easy to pull up and find in the future. So under that same share menu, we're going to scroll down to where we find add to home screen, and then we can go ahead and rename it to whatever we like. We can see the URL that's going to lead to, and then also a preview of the icon. We'll go ahead and press add here, and as you can see on our second page, we now have a new icon for Google Flights, and anytime we tap that, it's going to take us right back to that same website. Now, this is not an app. This is really just a shortcut to that web page, but it almost acts like an app in the sense that it's right on your home screen, super easy, one tap, and you're in a website. And of course, to remove or move, it's just like any other application. You can just remove it right there or edit and then shift it around, move it into folders, do whatever you like. We'll go ahead and remove it for now. This doesn't take up any storage either, as again, it's just a link, but just really useful to have if you have those frequently visited websites. Now let's dial back to some of the essentials, and this has to do with the display, probably one of the best features of your iPhone, and chances are when you're using your iPhone, you're going to be interacting with the display. So let's take a look at optimizing the display. So we're going to go into the settings app here, go back to the main screen, and then we're going to scroll down to where we find display and brightness. Now the first option here is we have the option to switch between your light and dark modes. Personally, I like to use both. So what you can do is click automatic, and then it's then automatically going to cycle between the modes depending on either the time of day or the position of the sun. So I got mine on a custom schedule. So as you can see, between 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. I am in light mode. I find this to be best during the day, most easy to read. Whereas at night, the dark mode here is just easier on the eyes. It's less bright, especially with those OLED screens. You get those really dark black pixels, and I find it really comforting, or more comfortable, I should say, to look at night. So when you have that schedule, you essentially automatically get the best of both. And of course, if you don't want it to be scheduled, you can turn off automatic and then permanently switch from one or the other. Now, beneath that, we have your brightness toggle, and this is, of course, also accessible in the control center, which we'll look at more later. So swipe down from the top right, and then you can adjust your brightness there. Now, auto brightness will be on by default. This is something you can turn off. Simply ask Siri to turn it on or off, and that's a quick way to do that. But I do suggest you keep it on, not just for battery life, but also for the health of your display. Now, beneath that, we have an option called True Tone. Now, I'm going to show you what this does. If I turn this on, you can see that the display gets slightly warmer in color profile. So what it essentially does is it changes the temperature of the display to the lights in your surroundings. Now, at the moment, I have these daylight lights around me, and you can see it made the display just a little bit warmer. And this is all really meant to make the display more comfortable to look at. And I find that on the iPhone in particular, this really works well and makes a pretty big difference. So generally speaking, I definitely suggest you keep this on. However, there's two exceptions. There's two times in which I suggest you turn this off, and that is when you're editing either photos or videos, or really any kind of content or scenario in which you need accurate colors, as of course this is going to slightly alter the color output of your display. So if you want maximum accuracy, you're going to want to turn this off. But otherwise, I suggest keeping it on, as again, it's just more comfortable, a little more pleasing to look at. And the similar thing can be said for night shift. Now, night shift is similar, but then takes it to a much more extreme level. So if I go and turn this on here, as you can see, my display is basically going to turn orange. And what this does is it'll actually limit the amount of blue light that is emitted from your display. Now, if you don't know, blue light can be harmful for your health. It can actually interfere with your sleep. It can cause headaches. And especially at night, I do recommend you turn this on. So what I've done is I have it set to a custom schedule where, again, from that same 10 to 7 a.m., I am on the night shift mode. And as you can see, that's going to make a much more comfortable display to look at. Again, don't do this while you're editing videos or photos, because it will really throw off the accuracy, but it does make a difference. And whether you may not know it, but believe me, I suggest you try it. Limiting blue light can be really good for your sleep. And then beneath that, we have the auto lock function. Now, again, this is what we looked at earlier. So again, keep that at around 30 seconds. I would say as short as possible. And then we also have raise to wake. Now, raise to wake will essentially automatically wake the display when you lift off your iPhone or lift up your iPhone. And this is something I generally like to keep on, as you don't have to press the button nor tap the display to wake it up. If you are really serious about saving battery, you could choose to turn this off. But for me, I find the convenience of having it greater than the little bit of battery that it saves. I think that's always the balance with these things. You don't want to turn off all of your smart features, because why else have a smartphone? But you want to keep the ones that matter to you. I think a similar thing I can say about my Apple Watch as well. You can easily turn everything off, but then you just have a watch that tells the time, and then, well, why have an Apple Watch? And I think the same can be said for your iPhone. Now, this last section here for the display is specific to the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, and this has to do with the always on display. So you have this section here in your settings app, and let's go and turn this on. Now, you do have some ways to customize this. So first, you do have the option to show or not show your wallpaper. So let me show you what this looks like. So as you can see, the display is now off, or at least technically. And as you can see, I can still see the time clearly. I'll be able to read my notifications, and I get a very dim version of my wallpaper. Now, while on the surface, I think this looks really cool. Personally, I have found it to be a little bit distracting to always have my wallpaper showing, as when I have my phone sort of on my desk while I'm working, in the corner of my eye, I can see my screen is on, and then that tricks my brain into thinking, wait, there's a notification or an incoming call or something, and then I just have to look over to make sure that's not the case. So what I do instead, let's go and unlock my phone here, is turn off show wallpaper. And as you can see, that's still going to show the notifications and the time, but for the rest, a black screen. So it's much more subdued and won't be as distracting, and will also take a little bit less battery. Again, of course, if you are very serious about saving battery, you could turn off the always on display entirely. But this is a feature that is unique to the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max that I think is quite nice, to just be able to see the time without having to unlock your phone, as well as whether you have any outstanding notifications. Earlier in the video, we briefly looked at the control center. Now, the control center is this menu here that you access by swiping down from the top right, and this is a great way to access those core system functions, whether it be your connectivity, your music, or even a bunch of shortcuts to apps right from your any screen, really, whether you be in an app or on a home screen. So really convenient. But to make this even better, you can customize this. So let's go into the settings app here, and then we're going to scroll to where we find control center. So right there, just beneath general. And here we have first a pretty important option that says access within apps. And this will determine whether you can actually access the control center whilst in another application. Personally, I like to have this on. I access this menu all the time. But for example, if say you are a mobile gamer where you're frequently swiping from the corners of the display, you wouldn't want your game to suddenly be interrupted by the control center. So in that case, you may want to turn it off. And as you can see, it no longer works. Instead, it will just give the notification shade. But personally, I like to have it on. I like to have it always nearby when I need it. Now, beneath that, we have the option to customize it. So here we have your included controls. And basically, when it comes to customizing the control center, you're really talking about this bottom section here. So these two, in this case here, I got 8 apps here on the bottom, or eight shortcuts, I guess you can say. And that is this list over here. Now you can add and remove by pressing this little minus button. So we can go ahead and remove one. And then we can also rearrange by using this little hamburger menu and then dragging them around. And then beneath that, we have a bunch of controls to add. So let's say I just removed the torch, so that's the flashlight. Go ahead and press plus, and as you can see, that's now been added. So now on the bottom of the list, so there on the bottom right corner, if say I wanted to put it in the top here, I just simply move it to the top. And as you can see, that's now right there. So personally, as I'm left-handed, I like to keep my more frequently used controls on the left side of the display. Same with my apps, by the way, on the home screen, to make it more easy to access with my thumb when holding my phone. This is a really good way to optimize the control center and essentially get the most out of it, as this is a really useful and I think often overlooked part of the iPhone. Earlier in this video, we looked at the erase data setting, and we turned this off because for security reasons, I really believe this is an essential thing to have on. However, if you are concerned about typing in your own password incorrectly, say 10 times in a row, or I don't know, maybe your kid or something like that doing that, there is, of course, a way to grab a backup of your data. And this, I think, is essential regardless, even if you don't use this erase data setting, as having a backup of your data, I find completely and utterly essential. Apple has so many subscription services, Apple Music, News Plus, TV, etc., etc. But if I had to recommend one to an iPhone user, it would be to iCloud Plus, as this is what allows you to get that extra storage that for most people will be required to back up your iPhone. So let's go into the settings app here, and then we're going to tap on your name in the top of the list here, and then we're going to tap on iCloud. And then here we have device backups, and we can go ahead and turn that on or off. This particular phone, I have it off. This is not my main phone, but for my main phone, you can see I have it there also for my iPad. And all you have to do is simply turn this on by pressing the little button here. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to create a full backup of your iPhone, including all your messages, your photos, your apps, your music, everything, including even things like your home screen layout. Now, what this means is that if ever your phone is lost or stolen, that is, of course, well, really unfortunate. That's a huge loss. But the most important thing ultimately is your data. And this means that what you can do is buy a new phone, say from Apple or wherever you buy it, and then restore from that existing backup. And it will be back exactly the way it was, down to your home screen, to your widgets, everything. And this is super reassuring, I think, to have, and it creates a backup every 24 hours. So whenever your phone is charging overnight, any new changes to your data, any new photos you made or messages, etc., will be added to your backup. It's completely seamless, done over Wi-Fi. You don't have to think about it. It just works. Now, I think iCloud Plus, I believe it's around $2 for a 50 gigabyte plan, or $3 for a 200 gigabyte plan, which I have. I think 50 gigabytes will be enough for most. 200 is great if you've got multiple devices. But this is, again, something I really recommend. As for potentially just $24, around $24 a year, you have a always up-to-date backup of all of your data in the event that your phone is ever lost or stolen. And I can't stress enough how important this is to have. So really recommend it. Again, very simple to activate as well. If you don't already have enough storage, it's going to prompt you to pay, or to subscribe rather, to a data plan. You can cancel anytime. But again, I suggest you keep it to make sure you get that extra peace of mind. And that's it. Congratulations, guys. If you've made it to the end, this was a long video, I know, but I firmly believe that all of these tips and tricks combined are going to make your experience using your iPhone even better. And again, to protect your and your business's online digital accounts, be sure to check out NordPass and use code DionBusiness for a 3-month free trial. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.